Hi, I'm Tina and I'm from Ross Papercrafts, and today I'm going to show you how to do a box for somebody's birthday. So we're going to start by using an MDF box which is available on the craft store. It comes in a set of 2. Okay, so it's quite a nice lovely toolbox, and you can do it in every way. You can use it as the box with the lid on top, or you can use it by placing it into the bottom of the lid. Okay, so we're going to start with using some texture paste. So when you're using your MDF, it's nice to be able to use lots of different textures and mediums on it. I always start either by doing the gesso first and then putting my embellishments on, or working out where I want my embellishments and then using my gesso on top. So that's the way I'm going to do it this time. So taking one of the Ross Papercraft stencils, I'm just going to make a little bit of texture. It doesn't matter if you go over your stencil or if it goes underneath. If you want to, you can seal the stencil down with some masking tape or some stencil tape. Entirely up to you. But I'm just doing it for a little bit of texture. And I'm going to do the texture just on the front of my box and probably on the lid as well. So just using my spatula and taking the texture there. If I don't get all of the areas, I'm not worried about that either. This is just going to be my base layer. So just moving that to one side, then take my stencil again. This time I'll use a slightly different area of my stencil, and again taking the texture over. The stencils are brilliant. You can use them for lots of different things. So you can spray through them, use them with all of your different textures. You can use it with your gel mediums. So lots of different ways of using it. You can even draw, put it onto something and then draw around and then colour in if you wanted to. What you must do with your stencils is just pop them straight into water. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sandwich it between 2 of these little pads here, which are wet, so that will keep it nice and moist for me so it doesn't dry on the stencil. So just taking another cloth, just have a little tidy up a little bit. Okay, just get rid of that so it doesn't mess up my area. So we've got those 2 now done. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my heat gun, high or a low heat, doesn't really matter, and just give it a little bit of a blast. The idea is just, because this is a thick texture paste, the idea is just to give it enough time just for the top layer to dry while I carry on using my embellishments. And then ideally what you'd do then is, once everything's together, is then give it time to dry nicely, because it can still be just a little bit squishy, but for the purposes of this demonstration this will be absolutely fine. And then just the side of my box as well. What we do need to be careful of, if you are going to use it as a box with the lid on top, is just to wipe away, and you get time to do that. It's not a big problem if you forget, but just time to wipe away the top so that my lid still sits on snugly. So just dry this a little bit more. If you don't have any stencils, then what you could do is you could just use your palette knife and pat the texture paste onto the box, just in random places. There we go, that should be enough for now. So, I mentioned gel medium before, which you can take through the stencil if you wanted to as well. Now, the one I'm using is called Amsterdam, and I'm going to take some of the embellishments that we do at Ross Papercraft and use those to cover my box. So, if I bring all of these in, there's lots of different things here. Now we do what's called an inspiration pack. So in our inspiration pack, you might get words, you'll get little pieces of fence posts, you'll get some hearts, all sorts of different things. And they're really good to do projects like this because I'm going to be using this even though I don't have a garden theme or anything like that, but I'm going to be using that as part of my build-up. I've also got some corners, which we do in a set, and also some different size cogs, which will also come in a set. And this one is from a framing set as well, so you get lots of different sizes and shapes. So, based on the front of my box, because this is what we're going to concentrate on, I will probably cover the whole of my box, but what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on the front and the top. So, if you're unsure where you want your embellishments, you could start by layering them on. So I'm going to be taking my different elements and just having a little play with where I'd like them to go. So I'm kind of using the fence posts as if they're like little arrows because they're going to be covered anyway. So I'm thinking that's where my lid's going to go. So don't cover that part. Bring in a couple of areas down here. Again, thinking about what's going on in my box here. And then bringing in perhaps some smaller cogs. And make sure that you layer up as well because it looks a lot more interesting when your items are layered. If you've got something like that and you're not happy with it falling down, then you could just use one underneath there just to steady that. And that could be any piece of MDF because you're not going to see that. So I'm going to go for a bigger heart just on the cog there. And then let's have a look and see what we're going to do here. So I want actually my frame to come about here because I'm going to then lay across my happy birthday so that we've got lots and lots of detail in here. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. I'm just going to lift that off. So I kind of had in my mind what I wanted to do. So taking some gel medium, and if you change it while you're doing it, that's normal. It happens to me all of the time. I change my layout constantly as I go on. Let's put my little part in here that's going to help me balance the larger cog. And then taking the other cogs and placing them where I want them. See, already I'm thinking I might add in, actually I'll leave those to the sides. Let's add in some of these, just here. Remember, just leaving my line there free of anything too big. You can interlink these cogs as well, so just have a little play with them. Okay, and we'll put that one just tucked behind there. May go for a bigger one there as well. And then just to balance my frame, I'll take that one there, so that can be coming out as well. Okay, so just a little bit more of the glue. Gel medium dries clear as well, so don't be afraid to put as much as you think is necessary on. And once you get some wiggle room, but once it takes, then it really takes. And then lastly, my happy birthday. So that's going to go just there, like that. So that's the side of my box done. So then let's take the top. So we'll pop that there. And add in some cogs just around the edge here as well. add a little heart just on the edge of that one, and then the bigger heart in the middle of the larger cog, just there like that. And then these I will put on the side eventually, but as I say, I want to just concentrate on getting this nice and steady and just not uniform. I never do uniform, but just in a nice area where it adds interest. Okay, so again, just to help the gel medium set, I'm just going to blast it a little bit with the heat gun. You would wait for this to dry. Normally, that really does help it. And then all of your, if you wait for it to dry as well and not false dry it, then the glue will dry clear. Sometimes if you false dry it, you might get a little bit of white showing, but we're not too worried about that. Okay. So that's, see how it's taken quite well already. Then I'm going to grab some of my white gesso. Now what you can do is you can cover every single area if that's what you want to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be quite random with what I cover. So I'm not worried too much about covering everything, because the reason we cover is so that when we add colour, then all of your colour is even and a true colour, especially if you're using white gesso. It also stops the MDF taking all of your products and using them too much, if you like. So the gesso helps to seal the MDF, which is porous, and then in that way your products that you pay more money for and your special paints, etc., you won't use them any. So it helps it not to sink in. So just taking, don't worry about my fingerprints on it. If I've got fingerprints, that's fine, because I just want to be quite random. As you can see, that texture paste isn't really moving too much, so I'm happy that that is taken and dry enough in order to do this part. And then this is where I'm going to be quite random, because what I want is when I put my colour on, I want it to be different tones of colour, not just one colour. And I'm going to be using sprays as well, which gives a really beautiful finish to your MDF. Okay. So again, with my heat tool, I'm going to just dry that a little bit. Now, you don't have to use as many embellishments as I've used. You can use as many as you want to. But what I like is that if you layer it, it does look more interesting than just putting all of your embellishments flat. Okay. We're just drying this off a little bit. So you can see some of the MDF there, that's fine. Don't mind that at all. There we go. Just a little bit more. There. Okay. So if you haven't got a heat tool, it's a really good idea to get that one as part of, you know, your main tools. So then I'm going to take some of these sprays. So these are the Pretty Gets Gritty sprays, and this one is Pretty Metallic, and then these are Pretty Amazing sprays. So I'll give you the colours as we go. So what I want to do, again, just concentrating the top and the side of the box. I've got Misty Morning, and they have mica in the bottom, so just give them a little bit of a swirl. And then, starting from far away, just add some colour. Then you can go a little bit closer for inside. I'm then going to go for Iced Sunshine. So with the Iced Sunshine, because I'm adding blues and I'm adding yellows, we're going to get a little bit of green coming as well, which is quite nice. So where it hits the blue, you will get the green coming through. So what I tend to do is I tend to concentrate on 3 different areas for one colour. It's just going back to the blue a little bit here. And then 3 different sections for the other colour. Then, just to tone it down a little bit, I've got the bronze, which is the pretty metallic. So with this one, I want to make sure this is kind of where my shadow hits. So you're making a faux shadow, in effect. Okay. So there we go, we've got that on here, which is looking good. Then we take our heat tool again. Now I'm using the heat tool for the purposes of the demo, but these do work nicely if you let them dry naturally. So just hitting the different areas, and as you can see, the sprays react differently depending on whether there's gesso there or not. So you've got the MDF showing through and you'll get like a shimmer mottled effect, and then on the gesso you're getting the true colour that's actually within the sprays. Turn my heat a little bit faster. I always start with a low heat so that I know it's not going to be too hot for the product. And if you've got a heat gun with a couple of heat temperatures, then it's always best. There we go. Okay. So again, ideally you want this really, really dry before we do the next step. But we'll work on the areas that are drier. So if you're happy with the colour, you can leave it as is. I'm quite happy with that because I've got shimmers of the colour where I want it, especially on the top here. I like that area there. And then I've got some different waxes. So these are from Deco Art, and they are like metallic lustres. I've also got one that's Art Academy, which is gorgeous colour here. Now what I'm going to do is just take a little bit onto my finger, pat it off on the craft mat, because it's easy to add more, but it's not so easy to take it away. Okay, and then I'm just going to hit just some of the areas there, and where you had your texture paste, can you see that it's adding lots and lots of interest there because there's lots of texture. I also like to do the edges of the box as well. There we go. So make sure that you're taking some of the waxes from your finger onto the mat first of all, just so that you know you're not going to add too much. Okay, and then for the top, so we've got a lovely bit of texture going on here on the top. So it's basically catching everything that is slightly uneven, if you like. So the edges, the texture paste, the grain in the MDF. And I'm going to add more just down one side of the heart, just to give it a little bit more of a shimmer. You can then go on to different colours as well. So I might jump in with a little bit of blue as well. So a lot of the time we use bronze and silver and gold when we're using cogs, but you don't have to. They can be a bright colour as well. There we go, just there. And then a little bit, I don't want to add too much blue because I like how that orangey gold's gone. Okay, so just adding some blue on the edges there. And just around there. And then you carry on building up the colour as much as you would like. And what I just want to do is I just want to pop some darker colour just in that centre there so that it really looks like it's deeper than it is. So I'm just going to spray that. There we go. So there we have it. And as I say, you can carry on with your colour, you can keep going, you can add as much as you like or as little as you like. So popping the lid on. There we go. So that is your little birthday box with lots of different layers and textures. There we go. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the demo, and I hope to see you soon on the craft store.